a Les Brown certified speaker, coach, trainer. He's a spiritual social scientist. His research focuses on the socio-spiritual aspects of sports culture. He has experienced the sports culture from different perspectives, both actively and passively for 30 plus years. During this period, he has seen the success and failures in sports, business, and life are determined by the same thing: spiritual connection. He is an ordained minister. He holds a master's degree, an MA in sports management. He holds a bachelor's degree in human performance and sports science and is a certified specialist in special education. Ladies and gentlemen, BJ Fletcher.
Hey, thank you so much for being on your show is excellent. I've been waiting for the opportunity to come here, so I thank you for having me here, man. Ever since I first met you, I knew that I wanted to be around you and learn from you, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, BJ. Thanks a lot for joining in this show. BJ, you are into sports and you have done your master's degree in sports and you are connecting sports with spirituality. And this is the first person that I'm seeing who connects sports and spirituality together, and you do coaching on that. What is the relationship between spirituality and coaching and training? Could you just take us through that?
Yes, spirituality. We talk about spirituality. We talk about it's the intangible things, right? So if you can't feel it, sometimes we feel spiritual. If you can't touch it and taste it, it's spiritual. And a lot of the things that you get from sports, it's internal, something that's inside of you. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that we transfer over into business coaching or into our real life. Those are spiritual things that it doesn't start when you get into business, but it starts from birth. So when you have your experiences in your family, but then especially when you get into and involved with sports, especially when you get into a younger age. So those spiritual things and those experiences, they tend to develop in you. And we have to realize that these things are spiritual. They're not always technical. Sometimes people have the stuff that makes them the stuff. You know, hey, you learn about that in leadership, right? It's some leaders who just have it, just born leaders, it seems like. Some people learn, but it's something that's in you that is spiritual. That's what I call it.
Good. And what attracted you to that study?
What attracted? Well, we have to go back to knowing who I am as a person. I was born on the Friday, February 13th. So in some cultures, that's considered an spooky day. It's a spiritual thing, you know. And my parents, well, we're talking about my grandparents, they're very into religion and different types of spirituality. Sometimes spirituality was Christian, sometimes it's Muslim, sometimes it's kind of the African hoodoo. So it's all spiritual. And it's something that you can feel. And I always realize that being in sports, sometimes in sports, people have momentum. Like if you ever been into a packed stadium, whether it's soccer or cricket or football, it's something that you feel that goes on into that. And I was always interested in that. Like, what is it that is making the people do so much better? I don't know if you have WWE where you are. Mm-hmm. You can always see people wrestling, and then once the crowd gets into it, it gives them a certain energy. And I was the same way when I used to fight. So I always wondered, what is it that's making that energizes these people, that energizes the fan, that energizes the coaches, that makes them want to do more, makes them fight through. If you're an athlete with pain, what is it that's inside of you that makes you fight through that pain, that makes you go the extra mile if you're a runner, or makes you do the extra work that you need to do? Or if you're a coach, you know, what is it that makes you be so dedicated to these people who are not your children? Mm-hmm. It's so much, even with the parents or the fans, it's what is that thing that we cannot necessarily put our hands on, but it's the it factor. What is that? And I always say it's the spirituality, because I made the connection, right? When somebody is involved in sports, I don't care if once they have been immersed in the sports culture, they tend to never leave on their own choice. They may stop playing sports, but they will always be involved, whether they're watching or they're encouraging other people. You're always involved. And then when you got people who may be in their 80s, and you start to talk to them about their experiences in sports, they light up, they get excited. Because I interview a lot of people, when they talk about it, it's just something that it's a spark in them. It ignites them. So only thing that I've seen that was similar to that is people's connection with their creator. Like if once you believe in a creator, once you have a belief in God, it doesn't matter if you change denominations or if you change religions, if you change from a Baptist to a Methodist to a Muslim to a Jew to Islam, Sunni to Shia. It's always, you will always have this belief of a higher power. And the only thing that I know that is like that is sports. Those two things that once you are involved in, you will always have the belief. It never goes away. So I'm like, if it never goes away, it must be something dealing with the spirit.
Now, who are your customers? Is it individuals or is it organizations? And how do you connect with the organization? For example, it's an organization that's coming to you and they have nothing to do with sports. Would you be still able to help them to create a leadership program for them or to coach their team members?
Yes, that is true. So what I've been doing the research, and I have been doing the research for a while now, and I have found that the majority of individuals are related to sports and they have some sports background. So if you can dig those things up from their history with sports, and it makes people realize that you already have leadership experience. You already have so many skills built up in you that you could be a better person in this environment. And it goes for, I talk to supervisors and people in management positions, and we all want a team to work. So you want the team. So if you can get these people to realize, hey, you already have the skills, and build up their confidence and create a team environment so you can do the onboard and let everybody know they're involved, and then bring those things together. And yes, it's the same spirituality and things that were in sports. You can bring those things into your business and have a better outcome and more profitability.
Could you take us through one example where you applied this in organization?
Okay. Well, most of my experience has been in the academic settings, in school settings. So we'll give an example for the schools that I've worked in. So we have a perfect example. You have teachers and young people, and they all come together. People tend to get in cliques. You want to do this or you want to do that. And so once they recognize that, hey, we are all fighting for the common goal, and you get this leader who was not necessarily a great leader, but to realize that, hey, we got to bring everybody together for a common goal, then we can motivate people to do their part. And as a team, people does their parts. And so in the educational setting, it has been very good, because letting people take on that role as a leader, transferring those sports experiences, has always been good, and it helps them lead not only themselves and their immediate crew, but it creates a culture that's contagious. Because when we talk about the spirituality and how once these things are established, it becomes magnetic. Everybody wants to become a part of it. Then people who come into the culture also want to contribute to it. So they want to become part of the family.
Absolutely. Now, in the case of an introvert, how can you help an introvert who is not into sports and who likes to be all by himself or herself? How can you influence that type of students, if you're talking about academic, or if you're talking about a staff in an organization?
A staff in an organization. So with sports and in sports culture, that is also one thing we must realize. Everyone in the sports culture is not an athlete. You have some people who are trainers, some people who are statisticians, and they have different parts to create the event. So you got to realize that everyone is not an athlete. You can't force somebody to be an athlete. If that's not them, they won't be able to be productive. So you have to look at this person and help them realize their qualities, the good things about themselves, what they bring to the team, and not diminish the importance of that, because it is important. Everybody plays a role. So you take that person and you find out what it is that they can contribute, and you boost them up for that, and make them part of the team and playing their role, because every role comes together. So yes, if you're an introvert and you're not necessarily an athlete or don't have a sports background, and let me say this, sports culture, any major country has a sports culture. I don't care what you say, because sports, if you don't play sports, you've seen sports and you realize the power of sports, how it influences. Even if you don't go to the game or not a fan, if you're in business, you realize that, hey, a lot of people come together and I need to advertise during this sports thing. So everybody realizes the power of sports. So people know automatically how sports go. So sports is the easy connector.
Wow, that's fantastic. Now, you have been an entrepreneur, you have run your own business. In most of the cases, in the very early stages, you also failed in your business. Where did you apply this in your business so that your business grew up?
Well, I'm glad you said, with business, just like in sports, we all know that most people, when you start off in sports, you are not the best. You're going to take your bumps and bruises and your losses. But that's just a part of the process of getting better. And I think it's the same thing in business. And I know for most entrepreneurs, when you start a business and you want to be successful, everybody wants to be successful. But then you got to reevaluate yourself, realize where you are, how much time you have put in, how much dedication you have put in, and you're not getting the results. Sometimes you need to go back and stick to the basics. Maybe we got a little off track, because if I know with any sports, once you get to a certain point, you want to go learn this and learn these fancy tricks and try this. But sometimes you got to come back to the basics, and that's what I learned in a lot of times in my business. Maybe I was trying to do too much. It wasn't on the right track, and I had to come back to the basics and build off the basics so I could be profitable or be successful or be happy or even content in what I was doing. So that goes back to the spirituality in sports and knowing that, hey, I gotta eat it and accept it. You learn a lot from your losses.
Absolutely. Now, BJ, you are connected with one of the best motivational speakers in the world, Les Brown and his family. Yeah. And I met you there in Florida. How did Les change your life?
He's changed my life in a lot of ways. I was going through some sad things. Had a lot going on with my family, and it was just sad, And being that motivation to talk to me, to hear his voice, to help me up. I don't, in football, sometimes at halftime you may be losing and things might be in the best situation. But when you have that coach to come in and give you the pep talk, to give you the talk that you need, it kind of gets you up so you can go into the second half of the game and do much better than what you would have been doing. So Les has been a person who was able to give me a pep talk and boost me up. And then coming to the training, I was able to meet so many other people who were successful, who came from dark places, who were successful in doing what they do. And it kind of reminds me of a story. I'm a wrestler. I won a state championship in my state here. But it took me a while to get there. So I had all the potential and everything. And I went against this one guy. I was very cocky and thought I was good and bad. And the guy really showed me that I really didn't have it all together. And he really embarrassed me. He beat me in front of everyone. He was like a 3-time state champion. He beats me in front of my parents. I remember the story like yesterday. I'm beating everybody. I'm thinking, and then he picks me up, slams me down grabs me by my neck, and then I'm getting rough and I knock the headgear off his face. And so he grabs me by my neck and walks me over by my daddy in front of my dad, puts it back on, and pins me down. I'm like, it's the most humbling experience I ever had. But I knew that, I couldn't get mad. So from that point on, I became friends with him. I went and stayed with him. I went and learned from him. And that just like we are doing with the Les Brown, we're learning from each other. Taking somebody who has better experience and who is more qualified in what we are, and we learn from them. So I went and stayed with him for the summer, learned some things, I think for 2 years. And I came back and I won a championship, because learning that the mentality and what it takes to become a higher level person, sometimes we are not aware of. We think we're good at where we're at because we don't realize that we're not as good as we think we are, or we haven't achieved the things that we have achieved. So that's what I really appreciate about the Les Brown Institute. You know, saying, first of all, it was able to give me a pep talk, and then meeting with other people like yourself who are doing great things. And it's like, wow, now I can hook up with other people who are doing great things and learn from them in order to go out and be a great as they are and help somebody else become great. And it's like everybody's pulling everybody up, going to a higher level. And that is really what I like. And, you know, I can't speak enough about it. So that's how Les Brown has changed me. I want to relate it all to sports because I do relate it to sports, but that's just what it is for me.
Where do you find spirituality and sports studies in the next 5 years' time?
Where do I find spirituality in sports in the next 5 years' time? So I had two plans, right? One, working with the NFL and NBA here, and being able to find that it factor. I'm pretty sure you are in martial arts. You know when somebody has that it, but you can't quite pinpoint, right? So I'm studying right now to be able to come up with a scenario of battery of questions and things that you can observe, so you can be able to find that it factor in somebody else. Because I really believe that in the spiritual, they say it's not, we're not able to know all the things of the spirit. But if we keep studying and asking and praying, God gives us wisdom. So we'll be able to recognize those things in the spirit. So in 5 years, I want to be able to have that down, so as I am able to pinpoint that and create a product out of that. And the second half is to be able for businesses to realize that a lot of athletes go through a big depression after they finish their sports career, especially people who, you know, play sports, certain sports that don't last a lifetime. I know martial arts is a lifetime sport, but, you know, certain ball sports you can't play throughout all your life. And then once your career is over, a lot of athletes go through a depression. And I am creating something so when athletes get finished with that, they will see that all the skills that they have gathered and gained, how they can be transferable into the corporate world. And so in the next 5 years, I will develop those two things so they can go hand in hand.
Wow. Do you think that you have competitors in your area?
Competitors? No, I don't have competitors. I have collaborators. If someone is doing it well, I want to collaborate with them, because this is, I know this kind of goes against what most people think about as business or entrepreneurship or whatever. But I feel like, you know, if I have something and somebody else has something, then we can work together. We can make something grand, because what I'm doing is not necessarily for me, but it's to make the world better. And it's something that will make people better. So I'm willing to collaborate with whoever is collaborating or whoever is doing something similar. If you're doing something similar and I like it, I'm going to come and, hey, let's ask some questions, find out what you're doing. Can we work together? If, you know, they're not in that great spirit, but that's okay. But I come from a good heart with good intentions.
Wow. My last question. And this question is, what are the three things or the three advices that you would like to share with the audience?
Three things that I would like to share with the audience.
Yeah.
One, belief. You know, if we have belief, anything is possible. And with that belief, we have to recognize that we have a spirit and we have a aura or electromagnetic thing, feel around us. And so as we believe and keep those things positive and keep those things on our creator, that is what charges the spirit around us. You know, as we charge our spirit, we create the reality around us. Well, the reality for around us that's being created will be a shelter. And the third advice I would like to give is you only have one life, and your life is for your God. So take care of your body and mind. I think that is one thing that we get lost on, and we get caught up in all the menial things, the material things that in the end is not really going to matter. You have to take care of what's most important. So going from that, you need to have honor, integrity, and you know, be trustworthy, and all those great things, not for the outside appearance, but for yourself, but so you can feel how you need to feel, so you can honor who you need to honor. And that's my advice.
Thank you very much, BJ. Thanks a lot. It was an honor to have you in our show. Ladies and gentlemen, BJ.